Aloha, and thank you for joining us for another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm Amber Millsap, Community Relations Officer with Hawaii Central Federal Credit Union. Today I have with me Tim Ashcraft of the Hawaii Credit Union League. He is the president and CEO there, and he joined me last time. And for those of us that are tuning in for the first time, Tim, would you mind just telling us a little bit more about yourself?
My background, my educational background, I do have a degree in economics and business administration from Western Washington University in beautiful Bellingham. Again, I ended up in Hawaii because, again, I married beyond my pay grade, a wonderful woman that I met there who's from Hilo, Hawaii, and I ended up back on the Big Island back in 1996. So yeah, almost 30 years in Hawaii and almost 30 years working in the credit union movement in our beautiful state. The Hawaii Credit Union League is a trade association that represents all 45 credit unions in the state of Hawaii. We advocate on behalf of our credit unions in terms of trying to provide a situation or an environment where credit unions can thrive, lobbying both our federal, state, and local officials to give us the best environment to serve our members. We also provide education and training opportunities to help our credit unions continue to do well and improve the service to their member. And we also provide business partner relationships or business partner solutions because we can advocate and negotiate in terms of our collective group to provide the best possible value to our credit unions to find solutions to help their business. And again, the bottom line is to best serve their member.
The last time we talked a little bit about your experience in the credit union movement. Can you share a little bit more about that? It was such a touching story.
Yeah, it was something that still resonates with me today. And the reason why I took the position as the president of the Hawaii Credit Union League, because everything I learned about the value of credit unions, I learned in North Kohala, in small towns of Kapa'au and Hawi. As I mentioned, I've been working in the credit union movement since 1997, excuse me, and I had the experience where I got to go work in a rural and plantation community in North Kohala. I was supposed to be there for 5 days, and I ended up staying 8 years. But the power of that is that I got to work in a community that I fell in love with. And once you work in a community like that and you become part of it, it touches your heart, and it resonates, and it's no longer a job at that point. It's a calling, and it's a passion of mine, and that's why it's not really the credit union industry, it's the credit union movement.
And you started out as a teller, and just want to talk about why you think it's important that someone consider a career in the credit union industry.
It's an important decision, and for me personally, you know, I value community. I value trust. I value giving back and helping your neighbor. And everything about the credit union movement, philosophy of people helping people, resonated with me personally. So for me, I like to shout from the rafters, you know, how much credit unions make a difference in the communities in which we serve. I've met so many amazing people. And I mentioned being a teller. It is a tough job, but it's also an amazing job because you have that face-to-face connection with members. It's like you get to find out how their families are doing, or how the kids are doing, how the grandchildren are doing. It's an amazing piece because even if you're out in the store, you can still say hi. They know you from credit union. They know you. You're like you become one of their family members in a sense. And again, that's Hawaii, isn't it? That's our aloha spirit. That's our spirit of ohana. It resonates in the credit union movement, unlike anywhere else I've ever been or have ever worked. So I challenge our group to, and if you're looking for a career in the credit union movement, it's not an industry. It is a movement. It's being part of your community for the lifetime. And like me, you could live the dream, live in such a beautiful state and being able to help others. There's no greater satisfaction to me than that.
So did you know when you were going to school, like when I grow up, I want to work at a credit union or?
No, credit union was not on my radar. I always knew I felt like I wanted to work in banking or a financial institution, but it wasn't until I came to Hawaii that I found that niche. And I was blessed to be able to, again, have my career start at Hawaii Community Federal Credit Union in Kona. And it turned me on to this career that's lasted almost 30 years now. And it's been a great ride. And I love every minute of it. And having the opportunity as the president and CEO of the Hawaii Credit Union League, you know, I get to amplify that message. And that's totally up my alley because I love what we do. And having the opportunity to visit each island and visit almost every credit union in the state, I see the amazing work that they do. I've been to Lanai, I've been to Molokai, you know, I've been to Kauai and see what the amazing work they do in the Valley Isle and the Big Island. It's as I said, it's humbling. And if I want everybody to have that same feeling I have. Because it's contagious.
There are challenges. You being the head of the Hawaii Credit Union League for credit unions here in Hawaii, can you speak to those challenges?
Since we are a partner in our communities, it's similar to what our members face, because our members are our owners, and we are all facing the challenges: inflation, cost of housing, cost of cars. How am I going to pay for college? How am I going to get my kids through school? How am I going to feed my family? What happens in case of an emergency? We all experienced COVID together. Our unemployment jumped up 30% and almost overnight. Those were scary times. But going back to our founding during the Great Depression, that's why credit unions were here. We're still in it for our members and finding solutions. And in terms of those challenges, dealing with a higher interest rate environment is making the cost of buying a house harder. It's making the cost of buying a vehicle more challenging. And as we can tell, trying to find eggs is challenging. But the other headwinds that credit unions face is also on the regulatory side. We talked in our previous episode about the safety and soundness of credit unions in Hawaii, and I touched on how strong our credit unions are statewide. As I mentioned, our capital ratio measurement of safety and soundness for Hawaii's credit unions is at 10.87%. That compares favorably well with our credit union Ohana on the mainland. We're also insured by the NCUA. Everybody asks about it, are my funds safe? We are insured up to $250,000, similar to our bank friends with the FDIC. NCUA, or the National Credit Union Administration, is the credit union equivalent of that. So there are some headwinds that we always face, but even during our founding in Hawaii, our credit union founding in Hawaii in the 30s, we faced these challenges head on, whether it's the Depression or the war, World War II, or the pandemic. Credit unions have fought through and been there with our members all the way through, and it makes me proud to work in the credit union movement.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the philosophy last time, people helping people, and it sounds like it really comes down to our members' challenges are our challenges, what they're facing in their everyday life.
Yeah.
We also talked about the history of credit unions in Hawaii, and Hawaii definitely has a storied history alongside the plantations being born out of that. Now, there may be some today that say that credit unions are no longer relevant, they're a thing of the past. What would you say to that?
I would disagree, because I think credit unions are more relevant now than ever, given the challenges that I just mentioned. One of the things that has changed in the marketplace is the reliance more on digital banking services, but there is still a need for physical branch locations. One of the examples I'd like to share is just on the island of Lanai. Maybe 6-7 months ago, First Hawaiian Bank had decided to close their branch and leave the market. And that's why I appreciate our small credit unions. The Lanai Community Federal Credit Union stepped up to the plate in working to fill that void. There's other examples of even during the COVID pandemic where there were consolidation of bank branches, but the credit union stayed in those communities. So to say that we're irrelevant, I would say we're more relevant.
Financial literacy. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I know many of our credit unions, it's a core community give back. I know several of our credit unions in Hawaii host financial literacy fairs at area high schools. I know that's happening on the Big Island, on Oahu and Maui. And some of our credit unions also participate in student credit union programs at area high schools. These student credit union programs provide work experience for high school students, and they have their own board of directors, and they learn how to run the business. So not only are they gaining necessary life skills that'll last them a lifetime, but they're also gaining valuable work experience, which will translate into careers in the future. And I think that really lays a foundation of excellence. And I value the fact that our credit unions in our state work so hard to support these types of initiatives. We also have programs in April, which are Youth Month, which is a youth savings month challenge for our keiki in the month of April. And I know many credit unions host deposit days to encourage savings and thrift, even at beginning at our elementary schools. So it's really fun to see that partnership.
And as we do have a younger generation that moves to utilizing apps like Venmo and Cash App, how do you see credit unions staying relevant among a generation that has grown up with everything on demand?
You know, you mentioned some of the fintechs, even Zelle. You know, you're seeing credit unions that have partnered with us to keep the relevancy and to serve that younger demographic. That's the benefit of the credit union structure. Again, our credit unions are owned by our members. Our volunteer board of directors are members. So there is a direct link between leadership and the membership.
Can you give us some more examples of how credit unions are adapting in the marketplace? I know you mentioned Zelle, but are there some other examples that you can share with us?
It wasn't that long ago with being able to deposit a check. Remote deposit capture was not something people were comfortable with. But due to the pandemic, and you're not able to necessarily visit the branch as conveniently as you used to, that became more accepted. Even in terms of the cooperative nature of credit unions, there is what's called a shared branching network. Even if you're traveling to the mainland, you can visit a credit union, and just like you're at your own branch here in Hawaii and transact business. Or if you're using an ATM network, again, if it's a shared branching network, you're using that surcharge free. So credit unions have always worked together, and that's why I value the cooperative spirit. We talked about the people helping people core philosophy, but the cooperative movement also extends to our credit unions in the state and on the mainland. We try to find ways that'll benefit all.
Can we talk a little bit more about the youth and why that is important to credit unions or the league in that respect?
They're going to be future contributors in our communities. And whether they start with a savings account or a checking account or their first credit card, credit unions are here to serve and fill that need. And I think if they realize, like what we talked about in the last episode, where you were able to get your first house at the credit union, that resonated with you and it resonated with me, and it creates that loyalty that I have a true partner through my lifetime. And as we know, the stresses of finance in your household, or even if you're an individual, is one of the great stressors out there. And if you have a true partner like the credit unions that we have in Hawaii, I think that's a big stress relief and adds a lot of value to your life.
Yeah, and I actually, around youth, want to talk a little bit more about the financial literacy piece and ensuring that next generation is equipped for adult life. And can you talk a little bit about how credit unions help in that respect?
The partnership with our schools is critical, even in the state legislature. I know the Hawaii Credit Union League is has long advocated to have financial literacy as part of the curriculum with the Department of Education. Make that a basic general learning objective within the Department of Education. Financial literacy is such it's so important, not just for the youth, but also Kapuna as well. You're seeing some of those challenges being missed, or they're not having that education learned at an early age, which impacts decision making, that impacts financial decisions they make that could last a lifetime. So in terms of, from the league perspective, that's something we are advocating with our state legislature to make that a priority. And I know our credit unions in the communities they serve, they also they do reach out to their local elementary schools and high schools and middle schools to see where we can help fill in the void. I know personally, again, living on the Big Island, I've been able to do have discussions or give lecture on savings, about how to use credit, and those are all valuable skills. Unfortunately, the question I always get back is, how do I buy a new car? You know, even though I stress the importance of savings first, especially saving for a rainy day, is a first step to kind of some financial independence. If you build up an emergency fund, so in case something were to happen, you don't have to borrow for emergency. You already have that set aside. Those are all critical skills that we need to get to our keiki.
Yeah, I think that's what concerns me about things like Venmo and Cash App, because Venmo and Cash App is making credit so readily available to a young generation that is not necessarily ready to, they haven't gotten any education on that.
Right, and they make it that easy for a reason, right? And also with that, there's a lot of fraud involved. And one of the things I know a lot of our credit unions do before they even sign them up for a Zelle or another P2P service provider is that they do provide a little education before, you know, turning on that particular service. But yeah, I mean, our young group, you know, they're inundated with ads and whatnot via their mobile device, whether it's through whatever social media channel they happen to have for that day. I can't even keep up with them all, but it's kind of like a buyer beware, and again, the credit unions need to. We all need to do a better job, even from schools on up, being a partner in the community to better educate our youth.
Along the lines of youth, I understand that the league is involved with Kapiolani Children's Hospital. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, since 1998, the Hawaii's credit unions have had a partnership with Kapiolani Children's Hospital and part of the Children's Miracle Network. That is a nationwide network of hospitals, but again, in Honolulu, we do have our own. And to date, Hawaii's credit unions have raised over $1.5 million to Kapiolani Children's Medical Center, and even have a wing in our name that was built several years ago. We committed $500,000 in 5 years and was able to do that. And it's a proud moment. I know our Hawaii Credit Union League staff recently did a tour of Kapiolani Children's Hospital, and it was such a cool thing to see Hawaii's credit unions represented in a hospital that does serve the entire island. And I know, at least hopefully your viewers may have had the same experience where they have friends or families or family members or someone that's been impacted where they've utilized the services at Kapiolani, and they do amazing work, and they're champions that they bring out each year. It's so touching. You just want to keep finding new ways to help. So I know we'll send out the challenge soon. It's like, hey, let's get us to 2 million raised to support the hospital that does support the entire state.
We have a couple more minutes. I really appreciate you being with us today. If there's one last thought you want to leave us with, I'd like to open it up to you.
Credit unions are there for you. Credit unions are about people helping people. And if that line resonates with you, become a credit union member.
Well, thanks again, Tim, and thanks to our viewers at home for joining us for another episode of The Bottom Line. And with that, I want to say mahalo, aloha, and a hui ho.